Yo, Animatormon here, to talk about Doctor Who once again. Recently, we saw the departure of the 11th Doctor, making the 4th regeneration of the Doctor in the new series, excluding the 8th and War Doctor. I'd like to talk about how these regenerations are similar, different, and overall, the quality in which they were done. I will mostly be speaking of the regenerations that took place in Parting of the Ways, The End of Time Part 2, and Time of the Doctor. The 9th Doctor's regeneration is number 10, was the first regeneration of the new series. Fans who started with the new series were shocked to see this character suddenly change faces. The Doctor has absorbed the time vortex in order to save Rose. He then regenerates. The 10th Doctor's regeneration into number 11 was the mark of a great change in Doctor Who. Along with the change of actors to play the Doctor, this was also a transition to a new head writer and production staff. This was RTD's last script for Doctor Who. The Doctor absorbs radiation in order to save Wilfred, which starts to kill him. After popping about to see his old companions, he regenerates. The 11th Doctor's regeneration into number 12 has been the most recent of the regenerations. It also marks a change, this time in the form of plot and story. This is the Doctor's transition into brand new regeneration cycle. It also sets him off on a possible new quest to find Gallifrey. The Doctor stays in a town called Christmas in order to defend it. He stays so long that he eventually dies of old age. The Time Lords grant him a second regeneration cycle. He then regenerates and becomes number 12. Strangely enough, all three take place, for the most part, inside the TARDIS, which actually isn't really important, just something I noticed. In all three of these regenerations, we see the Doctor sacrifice his life for those of others. In this respect, I think the 11th Doctor's holds a bit more weight. He was doing this thinking full well that he wasn't going to regenerate. He thought that this was really the end, and he was still willing to lay his life down. Although, I believe that the connection of the Doctor and who he's sacrificing himself for is much more personal with 9 and 10's regenerations. We really got to know Wilfred and Rose. Although I really don't like the character of Rose, the point still stands. It gave a bit more of an emotional connection to the situation at hand. Although that becomes a huge problem with number 10's regeneration. With 9 and 11, it was obvious he would sacrifice himself to save the others. For 10, it's almost as if he was thinking about just letting Wilfred die. He even sort of guilt trips him as he does it. It kinda makes the Doctor look like a dick. With both the 11th and 10th Doctor's regenerations, we got a really big build-up to the final event within those episodes. With the 9th Doctor's, most people didn't even know he could change his face to save his life. The 10th Doctor's was built very far back at the very start of the specials, with the whole knock 4 times thing. Although, I don't think the 10th Doctor's build-up was done well. At all. It was built up like the Doctor was going to die, even though it's explained by the Doctor himself that he wasn't going to die, only regenerate. While all three of them use basically the same special effect for the regenerations, each are very unique. 9's regeneration was the first to use this effect. It's quick and bright. 10's regeneration was much bigger and dramatic. The transition was slower and the regeneration energy actually blew up the TARDIS. 11's was actually done in 2 parts. The first part was also very big and dramatic. He even aimed his regeneration energy to destroy a Dalek ship. The second part is where the real change happens. I think this is personally my favorite looking of the regenerations. It's really quick. 1 minute, 11 is standing there, smiling at Clara, then BOOM! Now you've got 12 staring at Clara like he's about to fucking eat her or something. For a minute there, the audience was Clara, getting to feel what she did when it happened. Both 9 and 11's regenerations take place in the company of their companion. It really helps the audience to have a companion carry over through the regeneration. The only Doctors to do so alone, during the proper series timeline, were number 2, 7, and 10. Like you just stated, number 10 was alone when he regenerated, making it rough on the audience through the transition. And what didn't help was the Doctor's last line, "I don't want to go." Those are terrible last words. Both 9 and 11 went out with smiles on their faces, sad but still looking forward to the future. 10 went out with a whimper, instead of a bang. I believe, and hope, that during the End of Time, Part 1 and 2, the Doctor was really out of character. He acts as if regeneration is the equivalent to dying. He's never acted so before or since then. While on the topic of last words, I've got to say, while it was poorly done in the 10th Doctor's last episode, it was done excellently, done in 9 and 11's final moments. 9's last words are to help prepare his companion Rose for the upcoming change. It's great to hear his catchphrase one last time. He went on with a joke and a smile, which is great. 11's final speech is just beautiful. It perfectly encapsulates who the 11th Doctor was and celebrates him, with lines like, "I will always remember when the Doctor was me." At the same time, it prepares for the oncoming change, perfectly summed up in phrases like, "Any minute now, he's a-comin'." I think that out of the three, the 9th Doctor's regeneration was done and handled the best. It explained to the audience what regeneration was, while also feeling very appropriate at the ending of this episode, season, and Doctor. I think that the 10th Doctor's regeneration was the worst. He acts like regeneration is death, which isn't true at all. It's very melodramatic, like it's the end of the whole show. This is completely unfair to the viewers and especially to the 11th Doctor. It gives everyone a negative feeling about him before he's even shown up yet. It feels like the scene was written purely in spite of the upcoming creative team on the show. I think that the 11th Doctor's regeneration falls somewhere in the middle of the two, although far closer to 9's than to 10's. It's actually my personal favorite of them all. I really liked it. I really liked how the regeneration was done. The dropping of the bow tie was a very nice touch. It was also very symbolic, as Matt Smith was the one to suggest wearing it. It's his, no one else's. We even get a nice cameo by Amy, which I believe is really nice and doesn't take away from Clara's presence at all. Another very important part of all these scenes is to quickly establish the new Doctor at the end of each episode. In this field, I think none of these fail. They all do a pretty great job. I would say that the End of Time Part 2 does it the best. It quickly changes the mood from extremely sad to happy and exciting. We get a really good idea of who the 11th Doctor is in such a short amount of time, and that is amazing. The introduction of the 10th Doctor at the end of Parting of the Ways also does a good job, but for a different reason. It quickly establishes that regeneration is a relatively normal thing for him, and that he needs to adjust to his new persona, as well as the audience. The 12th Doctor's first scene does something similar to the 11th Doctor's. It gives an idea of who this guy is, although I don't think it was done as well. I love the concept of regeneration. It's one of the main reasons I fell in love with this show to begin with. Change is a big part of the show, so it's really important how these transitions into change are handled. That is the purpose of this video, to see what worked and what didn't. You have to ensure the audience that the change is a good thing, which is why the End of Time Part 2 is simply poor writing. It's okay to be sad that things will be different, but you can't lose sight of the fact that it isn't the end. One of the reasons I love the 11th Doctor's regeneration so much is because it does just that. It reflects on the past while also looking forward to the future.
And you want to live life.